Today on Behind the Tune.
You know, normally we don't do that. We'll look at the dyno graphs, we'll compare the two dyno graphs. Is it worth it? What's going on, guys? Matt at Middles Motorsports here. Up on the dyno today, 2021 GT500. We'll flip the camera on and let's take a look. So this car came to us for an Middleton Motorsports 850 package. So this package normally would consist of, you know, some supercharger upgrades, intake, headers. This is a pump gas deal, obviously, so we're not doing injectors on this. We're leaving the injector stock. So cold air intake JLT, 108mm throttle body, ported supercharger, Jokerz performance ported, VMP Gen 2 lid and race intercooler. So this is the first one we've done with their Gen 2 stuff. The Gen 2 intercooler is actually just a smidge thicker. Lid is a little bit, to me it looked a little lighter. I didn't have two of them laid side by side, but the other ones we've installed versus this one, I think this one is actually a little lighter, it's a little thinner. So there's a little bit more volume. Same height as the Gen 1. Looks a little different. Actually, I think the finish on it's a little nicer than the Gen 1. Nice looking pieces there. We did a lower temp thermostat in this car. But this car, instead of headers, normally on our 850 package, we do 1 7/8 or typically 2-inch headers, Cooks or American Racing. This car has the stock manifolds and stock catalytic converters on it, and that's what the customer wanted. So we left that stuff on there for them. And it's kind of cool because we get to compare. I've done several of these 850 packages, pump gas, 93 octane, on other GT500s, the 20 to 22 stuff. And I'm getting to compare. This is the first one I've done with factory manifolds and factory catalytic converters. So it's nice to be able to compare data between the, you know, what the headers actually do, because sometimes there's some debate on what modifying kind of that front part of the exhaust actually does on these cars. And we get to look at that comparison because I have lots of data from, obviously I've done 4 or 5 pulls on this car now. I've gotten pretty much dialed in, but I have some data from, you know, the last 2, 3 of these 850 packages I did. I have some fresh data from the past 2 months where we've obviously done this package. Identical package, actually the other 2 cars, the last 2 cars I did had the Gen 1 lid and cooler, race lid and cooler. And those cars were making, you know, decent chunk more horsepower with the headers over what this car's making. Still good power with this car. We're still, you know, within kind of what we call our 850 number, 850 to the rear wheels. Obviously we make a decent chunk more than that on 93 with the headers. We call it our 850 package because depending on if guys want to kind of customize a little bit, maybe they don't want to do the big throttle body. This car does have I'll kind of interrupt, this car does have a 2.9, the clutched 2.9 pulley also. So that's part of our package when we do the ported blower and the big throttle body. The ported blower takes a little bit of the boost away on the bottom end below 4,000 RPM. So by putting that 2.9 pulley on it, we kind of beef that back up in the bottom end, and then we get to reap the benefits of the top end also. I am seeing 17-ish, 17.5 pounds of boost out of this. And we'll look at data at the end. I can compare the last one I did, which is the same year, same color, to this one. We can compare data logs and compare dyno graphs, and we can kind of take a look at headers versus no headers on this package. And that's kind of what I'm highlighting on this video. Again, I've done this package before and made videos on this package before, but this one I kind of want to highlight the fact that it has the factory manifolds and factory catalytic converters. Actually, the whole exhaust is factory, versus modifying the exhaust when you're trying to put more boost through something like this, you know, one of these Predator engines. So, yeah, so kind of a cool comparison. So yeah, intake, throttle body, ported blower, lid cooler, thermostat, 2.9 pulley, stock exhaust, completely stock exhaust, stock injectors, stock fuel system. So this is where we're at so far. The camera centered up on the screen, 839.96, I'd call that 840. Torque 615, nice looking curve. Obviously we're, you know, again with the 500s, we've proven time and time again that revving these things to, instead of the stock 7,500, revving them past 8 is beneficial, as you can see. And yeah, this is really good. Again, this is 93 octane. Curve looks really nice. I got the tune dial pretty much dialed in where I want it. So we're gonna do one more pull on it, and we'll compare, again, we'll compare this. I'm gonna open up the last 850 package I did that did have headers, and we can kind of look at the 2 dynographs, and then we can look at data log from this car, from the last pull we're about to do. And then I can open up a data log from the last 850 package I did, and we can look at the data logs and compare some boost numbers and timing numbers, and you guys might kind of be surprised at what you see there versus what we're seeing on the power curves. So I'm gonna set the camera down, and we'll spin this thing up one more time. We'll kind of get a final number on it, and we'll go from there. We'll take a look at some data. All right, guys. So that run was a smidge cooler on the intake air temps, maybe 5-10 degrees cooler. So we made just another 10. We had a little bit of a little bump at the end here. About the same torque, 4 more foot-pounds. But you can see overall, just because the blower was smidge cooler, car sat for about 20 minutes, that we made a smidge more. It's a little warm today. It's October here, but we're having a seasonably warm October, and we're about 85 degrees right now. So letting the blower cool off a little bit made a little more. And the other thing here at the top is, again, we'll start getting into some technical stuff here. Because of the factory cats and the factory manifolds, at this power level, we are starting to hit a pretty big restriction on those 2 things. And I'll bring up the header run from the other car. I want to compare the last 850 package I did that I'm going to compare this car to. So we can compare headers and cats versus headers, or no header, just stock stuff like this car has, what we're seeing here, versus long tube headers. But anyway, I'm getting the boost is starting to really take off at the top here. I'm seeing over 17 pounds up here, which is, it's leaning on it a little bit for pump gas 93. This gentleman is from Illinois, and Illinois has decent 93 available pretty much everywhere. I lived down there for 8 years, and all the stuff I ran down there was always 93, and it was easy to get. Up here in Wisconsin, 93 is harder to get. So fortunately for him, he's got better pump gas available. Anyway, so yeah, the boost is starting to get away from us a little bit up here. Not get away from us, but it's just starting to spike up a little bit. And so the timing is getting real sensitive up here, just at the very top. So right about the shift point, I'm gonna have this car shift about right at that point, right at 8,200. So we're still within the realm of safety here. So, like I said, this is kind of everything you can throw at the front side of this on pump gas, you know, intake, throttle body, ported blower, lid, cooler, but factory manifolds, factory cats. So now I'm gonna open up the last car we did, our last MM850 package that I did. Same exact mods, except for 2-inch headers and off-road connection pipes. So I'm gonna just open that up here, and that's gonna be in green. So, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Bear with me, guys. I'm going to close everything. I'm gonna open up just that last pulley you saw at 849, and then I'm gonna open up the last 850 package I did a couple months ago. And there is your comparison of long tube headers versus on a ported blower, 2.9 pulley, JLT throttle body, stock exhaust versus long tube headers. So what you can see is that bigger tube header, we do lose a little bit in the bottom end, and that's kind of a given. And sometimes we'll compromise at this power level, this kind of sub 900, we'll compromise with 1 7/8. A lot of the guys that do these packages in the future would want to go fuel system more boost, like a 2.7 pulley or a 2.6 pulley, and see that 4-digit number, and that's where the 2-inch headers are really going to shine over the 1 7/8. So a lot of the time we end up just selling the 2-inch headers because guys kind of want to go to that in the future anyway. But you can see right at about, you know, there's a marginal gain from 4 to 5, but you can see right at that 5,000 RPM mark, you can see how the headers just take over. And we are, you know, we're talking, you know, 40 some horsepower gain with long tube headers versus the factory stuff. So I know I've been told by many people, because they read online, that headers don't do anything in these cars and the factory exhaust is fine. And sure, is it a 100 horsepower? No, but it's a pretty decent chunk, especially when you have a car like this, a DCT. You're shifting it here, or you're shifting to 82, and the shift recovery is coming back, you know, 65 somewhere. So you're running the car up here. So you're seeing this, you know, 40, 50 horsepower average across the board, and that's going to definitely make the car accelerate faster. There's just no doubt about it. The headers make more power, and you can see how just instead of kind of the waviness of the curve, you know, because the HDFX timing system's kind of doing a little, you know, it's doing this little dance, trying to keep stuff in check. The header car is just kind of more of a smooth, it's got a smoother power curve to it too. So that is, you know, again, it's not car to car, but I've dynoed enough of these GT500s where they are very consistent vehicles when you're dynoing. You know, when you put them stock to stock to stock to stock to stock, you do dozens of them stock pulls, they all make within 10 horsepower of each other. So, you know, we actually had a dyno day yesterday, and for a cancer, we had a cancer research deal come here, Cruise for a Cause, and we had a dyno day for that, and we did several GT500, 2020 and up GT500 bone stock ones, and they, again, kind of doesn't really matter temperature. They all make, you know, 680 is about the average that they'll make. So they're very consistent. So when we're modifying them, our starting point is very consistent. So I feel comfortable comparing two different cars with the same mods, you know, other than just, you know, being able to compare one different modification between these two cars, because everything else is the same. So yeah, pretty apparent there that the long tube headers do make a difference. Data logs. Let's go into car here and we'll jump in here and we'll take a look at what we just did there on that pull. And air fuel ratio, I am commanding, let's get the camera to square up on this laptop here. Air fuel ratios are very similar, or are similar between the two. You know, 0.78, 0.79 for Lambda. So this is what we just did. This is the one this is the pull we just did, you guys just saw. So, boost wise, you can see at the top here, 67 inches of mercury. That's 17.5, 18 pounds of boost right there, depending on what the barrow is right now. I haven't checked it, but typically the barrow, we're probably 29 some. Yeah, that's a pretty healthy boost number. Timing, we are, you know, you can see, I have it set where it's pulling a little bit, but you can see the timing is, it's dropping, you know, 13.8, 15. It's moving around a little bit, but I think we're seeing just at the very tippy top, you know, it tried to run 17 there. I'm going to call that an average about 15 to 16, somewhere in there. You know, maybe it did drop a little lower, but as the RPM came up, it was maybe allowing a little more. So yeah, you know, but kind of between those two, the boost number and those timing numbers, you know, you can kind of see where we're at there on, you know, we were at 849. Fuel trims, what we're doing for fuel here, you can see the fuel is pulling just a smidge. Typically what I want to see, if you're looking at these short terms here, the closed loop system is pulling just a smidge. You know, -3, you know, it's very close. So, you know, kind of typical, you know, again, if you guys have seen our other episodes of Behind the Tune on these 500s, I share all that stuff and you can go back and look at that stuff. But let's take a look at, again, the last 850 and what the car that's up on the dyno, or up on the screen there that I just showed you, the last 850 package I did. So the Dyno Pull, that in the blue run we saw on the screen up there, I have the data log of that, which is right here. So boost, we'll start with that first. You can see we are a peak of 65 kPa, so we're a little lower. If looking at these numbers closer, I was looking at kind of the averages, we're probably down about a pound and a half on that other car, that last 850 I did that made that 892 that we were just looking at. So we had less boost on that other car, for sure. So again, same pulley, same everything, other than the headers. Timing, so you can see here that we don't have that dip in timing. The timing is much more consistent here, 17, 16, 8. You know, it's about a degree and a half higher on average, I'd say, kind of running it through, you know, near the peak power than this car that we're sitting in right now. So you can see, you know, you can kind of see this dip here, and I know maybe flipping back and forth between these two data logs, it might be kind of hard to see, but you can see how much flatter this is here. And the timing tables I had set up very similarly between these two cars. Again, I've done enough of these 850 packages. I can set the packages up tuning wise very similarly. Every car is a little different, so you do have to custom tune each one individually, but you're definitely going to be very similar. But you can see how this on average is definitely running some more timing. It doesn't have that, and I'll go back to this current vehicle. It doesn't have that kind of drop in timing. So yeah, you can obviously see that there's more timing with the headers. And the reason for that is just the headers hold more heat in the engine and they restrict the airflow, which in turn puts more boost in it. So more boost isn't always a good thing when you're talking heat and you're talking pump gas, when you're talking octane limitation. So yeah, you can see that, you know, kind of up here at the top when I'm kind of scrolling this boost from that, you know, 7,500, we're definitely all above 60 inches of mercury there. 62, 63, 67, 65. The other car with the headers, 54, 56, 57, 60, 56. So you can definitely see we're lower, even though that little spike at the end might be up near what this car is. On average, we're probably 1.5 pounds less with the headers, but we're making 40 more horsepower. Some of that isn't just in the airflow, and some of it is in the timing. So kind of between those two things, that's where we're getting the gain on the headers. So definitely a cool comparison. I like, you know, kind of nerding out about these numbers, and I was excited. You know, I like building stuff that makes power, but I was kind of excited for this one because this is the first one we've done with the factory cats and the factory manifolds. But again, throwing kind of everything at the front end of the engine, at the inlet side of the engine. And I hadn't done that before, and I like doing, you know, venturing into new territory here. And on this particular, you know, this particular GT500, I've boosted other stuff on factory manifolds and cats. So I kind of knew going into this, I kind of had an expectation. And my guess was about, I actually guessed maybe 30 horsepower between this car and a car with headers, everything else being equal. So I was actually a little bit surprised that it was closer to 50 horsepower at the wheels, but you know, it is what it is. Again, that's, you know, factory boost with the factory intake and throttle body. You know, obviously the Ford engineers designed that stuff in, so it's not much of a restriction. So you got guys that, you know, maybe are just throwing headers on just the stock blower, stock throttle body, just maybe an intake car, and they throw headers on it, and they're only seeing maybe 10 horsepower. And, oh, headers aren't worth it. Well, when you port the blower and you put a pulley on it, and you put the bigger lid and cooler on it, and you start really opening up the inlet tract of this thing, of this, you know, this Predator engine, now the factory cats and manifolds do become a restriction. And that's kind of how airflow works. A car making 900 wheel is going to require some different stuff than a car making 750 wheel. And you wouldn't think it's, oh, it's all big power, but when you're talking, airflow and stuff going sonic, air kind of hits a wall. And that's something that I've learned over the years of dyno tuning cars and tuning cars, is you look at one combination that's maybe making 100 horsepower less, and man, it worked on this car, but why isn't it working on this car? And it's just kind of how it works. It's some of these airflow limitations, you really just come up against it really hard, where it's like, it's fine at 750, it's fine at 780, and then at 800, it's a restriction, and from there on up, it becomes a big restriction. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here, is because I haven't personally done it, but I have seen some guys put headers on just an intake only car, and they're picking up 10, 15 at the wheels. And so people are like, is it really worth the $2,000, $2,500 header system plus, you know, $1,000, depending on where you are in the country and how much labor you're getting charged, $1,000 to $2,000 for installation on a set of headers on one of these things, because we typically are pulling the front cradles. Is it worth it? Nah, maybe not on an intake car, but if you're going to port the blower into a pulley, and, you know, if you're going to kind of go after it a little bit more with some more boost, definitely worth it. I think, in my opinion, it is. So yeah, kind of cool to see the comparison here between two different exhaust systems on one of these GT500s. So yeah, otherwise, you know, the tune's looking good. I'm commanding, you know, 0.78 up here, 0.79 kind of in the mid-range, and that's what I was commanding on the other car. Typically what I command on the pump gas cars is, you know, under 0.8, so it'll be 0.79, 0.78. The factory ramps, the factory will command about 0.85 and then kind of ramp it richer, and then they get really rich, overly rich for, to try to keep the cats cool for guys that are doing, you know, they have to build this car to be able to do wide open throttle runs for minutes at a time. And I just haven't deemed it necessary to retain that ultra rich cat overtemp protection stuff on these. We've done a lot of testing on track with them, road course testing, and we found that there's no harm in removing some of that enrichment. Still leaving it fairly rich, but you know, you're going to make more power removing some of that enrichment. And again, in our testing, with no sacrifice to durability. So yeah, otherwise, you know, you can see we're pulling a little bit of timing here, you know, kind of across the board, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with, you know, when it's pulling like less than a degree like that on this system. And the timing is kind of smoothing out up top here. So you can kind of see and again, this was the second pull after a flash. So the spark system has to learn a little bit of this, and it's going to continue to smooth it after you do, you know, a couple, 3 more wide open throttle pulls in this thing. So, but yeah, you know, fuel pressure and injector pulse with her looking good. We have found, and I see that online too, where guys are throwing 1300cc injectors at these things on pump gas. We have found that the factory injectors are that other car that was up on the dyno, the screen there, the blue run, that 892, that car still had stock injectors in it too. Now that was the limit of the stock injectors. That was the safe limit for me, but that was still well within a safety margin for even going into cold weather on the factory injectors. So I don't know that I'd say all the way up to 900, but you could almost call it all the way up to 900 wheel. The factory injectors are totally fine. You can see we still have the fuel pressures holding on this car at, you know, 850 at the tire. The other car, you can see the factory fuel pressure is holding, you know, about that 100 PSI, what it commands. So yeah, not really any point to putting the big injectors in one of these things unless you're going to E85 and you're trying to make or on a pump gas or race gas deal. If you're trying to make 1,000 wheel, maybe on race gas, that's where it'd probably be necessary. But otherwise, not really needed, you know, for these 800 to 900 horsepower setups. I just see it time to time where guys kind of have similar mods and they have ID 1300s in them, and it's kind of not really necessary. Again, maybe for future proofing something, you know, going to 85 or bigger number, but we have found on these 850 to 900 horsepower packages that the stock injectors are totally fine. They are capable of supporting the fuel flow. Otherwise, yeah, everything else looks good. This guy's super excited to get this back. We talked to him this morning, and just asked him about what kind of fuel he was running in it, so we confirmed some stuff there, and yeah, we're dialed in. Still making a nice number. That 849, again, we're calling this an 850 package. We reference rear wheel horsepower with our packages, so 849, we're right there on it. And again, the 850 package is capable of making closer to that 900 if you kind of throw everything at that package, the headers included. Some guys don't want to spend the money on the throttle body. Some guys don't want to spend the money on, you know, like this gentleman didn't want to do the headers. So we kind of leave some cushion there for our horsepower ratings. We obviously have other packages that, you know, we could do a 900 package that's similar to this, that's on ethanol with a fuel system. And We haven't advertised it yet, but we obviously have done testing on a 1,000 horsepower package, which is basically what this package is, plus a fuel system and ethanol, plus a 2.7 pulley. So that's coming down the pipe. We got some customers that are waiting for us to do that package on their car. And we're gonna be doing some of those this winter. So early next year, I'll have some of those cars in the dyno, and we'll get to see some 4-digit numbers out of one of these things. I know it's been done before, but and we've, you know, like my personal car, I was over 900 wheel with a stock pulley because I road raced it, and I know that car was capable of doing it. But basically, you know, we're all kind of under the umbrella of the same mods with these things. These cars are so awesome because they're just so easy to make these kinds of big numbers with, and even on pump gas. So I'm going to stop rambling here, guys, and we'll go take a look at those dynographs again. And again, this particular car is at that 849 mark. And again, the blue line is that last 850 package we did, and the only difference being is the 2-inch headers with off-road connection pipes. And this is actually the first, I'm looking at this for the first time along with you guys, looking at the comparison here. So I'm kind of just looking at the, you know, kind of where we're taking off. And I didn't think about that we'd lose some torque, but yeah, we lost a little bit of torque. I'm actually bringing the cursor up because I'm curious. And again, this is my first time looking at this. So I'm curious about what kind of torque loss we're seeing here. It's about 10 foot-pounds. You know, there's 20 horsepower. And again, this is down below 3,000 RPM. For me, that's kind of inconsequential for if you're looking for acceleration on one of these cars, because you just click the paddle once or twice and you're up here. You know, so if you're trying to race this car from 2,500 RPM, I don't see why anybody would be trying to do that. So these losses down below 4,000 RPM even are kind of, to me, don't really matter. With a DCT, it's pretty easy to just, you know, if you're in manual mode, or even if you're not in manual mode, you can still click these cars down. Or if you're in auto mode and you just put this car to the floor, it's gonna just downshift, you know. So losses down here, you know, it's kind of the same thing with the ported blower. When you port the blower with a stock pulley to stock pulley, you do lose some power below 4,500, but again, because it's so easy to get these cars and it's so easy to RPM these cars, you know, when you're racing this car, even when you're road racing it, whatever, rolling onto it on the street, drag racing it, you know, I can see from a drag race situation, maybe losing some power in the mid-range here is maybe not so desirable, but down here, what we're seeing, that's inconsequential to me. And you can see we're gaining a little bit through the mid-range, but at that 5,000 mark, the headers just start to take over. And the scavenging ability of the headers, the heat reduction of the headers, and just the all-out flow of the headers, obviously, you know, you can see as the RPM gains, we're just gaining more and more and more. Even though we're more boost here, there's more timing and, you know, less heat and more flow. So cool thing to look at, cool stuff to compare. But 849, still nothing to slouch, you know, nothing to scoff at on one of these cars. That's still pretty impressive. And this is you know, this is a low 10-second car with a, you know, it's got R888s on it, and this thing is going to be a blast, just like all of them with this kind of power on the street. So super cool comparison. I was excited to be able to do this one with you guys, and I know I'm rambling about it, but I like nerding out about this stuff and, you know, doing comparisons, and I'm sure a lot of you guys at home watching these videos like to see comparison stuff. You can see numbers. So if you're contemplating headers, you know, if you're just a intake only car and you just want to throw headers on it, but if you want to make some bigger power, if you want to get closer to that 900 wheel, I honestly think that headers is the way to go than trying to shove it through the factory manifolds and cats. Now, some of you guys may, well, what if you just delete the cats? I haven't tried that yet, honestly. We haven't done direct comparisons with the same, you know, every time we do something with deletes, I'll say. I haven't done a cat deleted car and then just put headers on it. That I have not done on one of these cars. I would, in my experience, my guess would be if you just removed the cats off this car for off-road use, we would probably see a 25 to 30 horsepower jump, and maybe not 30. I don't know about 30. That's probably pretty, yeah, I don't know about 30. I'd say 25. I'd say half of this gain is headers, half of it's cats, is what I would say. That would be my guess, based on just previous stuff that I've done. But yeah, still strong. Either way you do this package, pump gas, pretty strong numbers, pretty fun car. So I appreciate you guys watching, coming along on the journey on this one with me. I'm gonna get this thing off the dyno. We're gonna take it for a little spin quick, and I know this guy's really anxious to get this car back, and we still got some nice weather here in the Midwest, so yeah, I'm sure he's gonna be out cruising it around. So that'll do it for this one, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Check back on all social media for other videos. We're going to the track next week. We'll be at Road America, so there'll be some content from there. A bunch of our customers, a bunch of guys come from all over the country to do a P1 session with us at Road America. So there'll be some stuff on our channels for that too. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you later.